We are in Genesis chapter 19. We are on the life of Abraham, and this is the chapter where God destroys 4 cities. He's going to destroy 5 cities, but he spares one for the sake of Lot, which while we didn't discuss that last week, we did discuss the power that the righteous have, that God would have spared Sodom and Gomorrah and the other cities. He would have spared them if there had been so much as, well, just specifically Sodom, if there were 10 righteous people in Sodom, he would have spared the city. He would have done it. And of course, that's in chapter 18. And this is Abraham concerned about his nephew and his nephew's family, who he knows are in Sodom. He's concerned about Lot and his family, and he knows they're in Sodom because it was Abraham and his men who went and rescued all of those people. He rescued the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboam, and Zoar. He rescued them back in chapter 14 with the first battle ever recorded in the Bible. Now, we're in chapter 19, and God has sent 2 angels to Sodom, and there is a great cry that has gone up to God, and it is a cry of extraordinary wickedness. And he sends these 2 angels to see if all that happens to be true. And so we have to ask the question, well, didn't God already know? But in fact, what he is doing is he's sending these 2 angels out for twofold reason. One is that of testing the city. That's what he's going to do, to see. He's going to put them to the test to see what occurs with these 2 angels going in. And these angels look like men. Abraham thinks they are men. Lot thinks they are men. They can't know that they are angelic beings at all until they happen to be told that they are. And that the next part of this is, aside from testing Sodom, is if Sodom fails the test, that these 2 angels are going to bring out Lot and his family. And they're going to do it forcibly. Forcibly, as in Lot is taking too long. This has got, if you're going to survive, you've got to leave now. You've got to do it. And we'll just put this up for a second so that we know where we're talking about. And I've got a number of photos I also want to show you in this. But all right, so I've got my world map. I don't have the country borders or anything like that. Of course, we're talking about in the ancient world. It'd be hard to put up those borders anyway for the various kingdoms that happen to be there. And even those that call themselves empires, they weren't very big, not by the standard that we're accustomed to, with even Assyrian Empire was bigger than these empires that called themselves that. But okay, so we have where the red arrow is pointing toward Israel. Of course, we have Turkey and Greece off to the west, and Iraq off to the east, and Egypt to the south in this. And just to give us a little bit better, not such a good map, but here we have the Dead Sea, and this is basically where they are. Now, I can't say for certain that anyone can know which one is Sodom, which one is Gomorrah. I'm not so sure that we can say that. It could be that all these cities were so close together they may have kind of merged into each other, and it's hard to know. But this is where the Bible puts them, and this, as we're going to see, is precisely where we find the evidence of cities having been destroyed by an immense fire, precisely as Genesis 19 describes. Precisely. All right, and we'll get into that, but let's look at Genesis 19. Now, the two angels came to Sodom in the evening. So these are the angels going that God sent into Sodom. They come in at evening. And Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, "Hear now, my lords, please turn into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go your way." And they said, "No, but we will spend the night in the open square." Okay, so we've already seen this style of hospitality with Abraham. Here, Lot, Abraham's nephew, is showing that hospitality. Here are these strangers coming in, and he is going to offer them a place to sleep, he's going to offer them food, and they are going to eat. And here's the bigger part, protection. He is going to protect them because they're going to need protecting. If you don't know what Sodom is like, if you are a stranger wandering into Sodom, it's going to get bad if you don't know how to protect yourself. It's going to get very bad. But he insisted strongly. All right, so they say, "No, we're going to spend the night in the open square." But he insisted strongly, basically saying, "No, you're not. You're not staying in the open square. You cannot sleep there. This will be tragic." He insisted strongly. So they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So here are these angels. They are brought into his home, and he is feeding them. It's a feast. You have unleavened bread. That is part of it. And they are, everything seems okay right now. But the sun's going down. Everything seems okay right now. Now, before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. All right, let's take a moment for a second. Let's just take a second. From every quarter would suggest this is a large city for the ancient world. Now, I say for the ancient world. This could not be, the population in the ancient world was not as great as it is today. When we think of cities, the first one we may think of is like Atlanta, or think of New York, or think of places like that. They're bigger cities, obviously, than those on the earth. But in those days, going back into around 2000 BC, that the population isn't that great, but they can have cities, they can have countries, and they do. And there are even wars, and there are even empires. As we stated earlier, they're smaller. You can't have massive armies because the population just isn't that great. Everyone is kind of growing at the from the basics, from the same starting point. And this city, Sodom, seems to be sizable. How many thousands of people? I've heard it estimated that this area could have had hundreds of thousands of people in it. I can't answer that question. I don't know. But it is regarded as a city. It does have a gate. It does have homes in it. It does have squares in it, or at least one square in it. But it also has quarters to it. And you have what is described here as both young and old and young, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. So here's a large group that have come, and they have surrounded this house. Verse 5, and they called to Lot and said to him, so they know Lot. they call to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them carnally." So what is the problem here? The problem is these are vile people. Extremely vile. These are, as we're going to see, they are homosexuals. They are violent. They are brutal people. And while Sodom may be a great place for a business, great place economic-wise, it's not going to be for very much longer. But it may have some points to it that are beneficial, but there's also a part of Sodom. There's the darker side of Sodom, the shadier side of Sodom, that is not good at all. Now, we come to verse 6. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind him. All right, so he goes out to talk to them, but he closes the door. Nobody's coming inside. He's closing the door. But it is amazing that he has this kind of courage, because it is courage. He's not immediately bolting the doors and piling furniture against the door and barricading themselves inside. Not yet. Not yet. He goes outside to talk to them rationally. But you can't talk to them rationally. Not when they're like this. And what does Christ say about that of casting your pearls before swine? Don't give what is holy to the dogs. Why? Lest they turn and rend you. All right. Don't give that which is holy to the dogs. Don't cast your pearls before swine, lest they turn and tear you to pieces. Now, I realize what he's doing is trying to appease them, negotiate with them, offer a solution in all of this. And honestly, I have to say, I have no idea why he does what he does. I really do not know. But this is extraordinary. I have to say, it would be a part of this hospitality of the Near East that is coming through in all of this. But I don't know why he does what he does. But he goes outside and he tries to speak to them rationally. And there's some people, you cannot talk to them rationally. Not when they are dead set on doing something and you're trying to tell them, no, don't do that. Do not do that. And they will kill you, which is precisely what they say they're going to do. Okay? So he goes outside, he closes the door, and said, "Please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly." Well, wickedly is a word, that's a judgmental word, isn't it? That's a judgmental word. What you are doing is wicked. Now they say, why does this man come here and constantly judge us? Why is he doing this? Well, you say things like this, yeah, you are judging. You're showing a judgment, and they don't like that judgment. Well, they've got their own judgment. It's horrid, but they have this debased mind about them. Now, he comes with negotiation. All right, don't be so wicked. That is, in fact, calling them to stop. Calling them to stop. Don't do this. Now comes the negotiation. Verse 8. "See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Only do nothing to these men, since this is the reason they have come under the shadow of my roof." Now, let's just put this a little bit into an understanding. Number one, just because Lot says something doesn't mean God approves it. You've got to have some common sense here. Because we have, and we've spoken about this on numerous times, there are people in the biblical text who will do things and the Bible does not immediately say, and that was wrong, or, and that was right, and boy, was God proud of him then. It doesn't say those things. It doesn't just assume. It has already covered certain things that you should know this is wrong. You should know that this sort of thing is already wrong. And what he is saying, I'm not sure, I cannot tell you one way or another, if he was willing to go through with that deal. I'm not sure if he was or not. Maybe, maybe not. All I know is what he said. I don't have to know what he was going to do because it doesn't happen. And they're not satisfied with that. They're not satisfied with that at all. They are militant, they are deadly, and they want you to know it. They want you to know you don't mess with us. You don't judge us, you don't stop us, you just get out of the way. That's all they want. Just get out of the way. But it's going to escalate. All right? So don't do anything to these men. They have come under the shadow of my roof. He is sheltering them there. And they said, stand back. Then they said, this one came in to stay here. He just stays here. And he keeps acting as a judge. We didn't want him in here. We didn't call him in here. He comes here and he just stays and he acts like a judge. They know he's not like them in many ways. One, they know he's a stranger. He's not from Sodom. So he's different. But number two, he behaves himself. He's not wicked like they are, and because he's not wicked like they are, immediately it is seen as judging, and it is judging. When someone decides to do something, we'll just say it's evil, it's sinful, and someone else decides they're not going to do that, didn't have to say a word, just not going to be involved in it, that is judging. Is that wrong? Obviously it's not. Obviously it's not wrong whatsoever. But it is judging. And you cannot escape such a thing. That is, escape. Somehow you think you can lead this life and not show any kind of judgment call, not show any kind, through your behavior, that somehow you're not judging anybody. Actually, by refusing to do something, you are judging. You're, by implication, judging those who are doing those things. So they say, he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. All right, they have a bloodlust, and they're going to kill him. They are enraged at this. And what has he done? What has he done? He has refused them what they demand. That's all. They demand it, therefore you better give it. They demand it, therefore you better bow down. You better open up that door, let those men out, and that's that. And we're good. That's all you have to do. Just do that. But you refuse that. You refuse that, and they kill. You refuse it. Now, is that a rational human being? That's a mob. And I will say this, that what is seen here in Genesis 19 is seen almost identically in Judges 19 and seen almost identically in things today, where we have things going on, and these are sons of worthlessness. They are a vicious mob. There are vicious mobs today. You either bow down to them, get out of their way, and if you don't, it's murder. If you don't, you're going to see that they're going to attack just like the Sodomites did. And there is nothing new under the sun. There is no new sin. There is nothing new that has come around. And you make the same mistakes as those in the past, and you get the same results. Humans are humans. Same results come from the same sins or the same correct behavior. So you get the result from that, whatever it happens to be. So they say, we're going to deal with you worse than we would have done to them. So they pressed hard against the man Lot and came near to break down the door. All right, so they go and lunge after him, and he's able to get on the other side of the door. They were going to kill him. They're going to take him in. They're going to kill him. And they came near to breaking down the door. And it, with these two angelic angels there on the other side of that door, something's about to happen. Now, whatever the door is made out of, I can only assume it's wood. I don't know, but they came near to breaking it down. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. So he is brought inside, and they shut the door, and they struck the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. They don't stop. They don't stop. This is truly the definition of a debased mind. Of someone can be, and we see it all the time, someone can be shown they're wrong, but it doesn't matter. They can be shown that your behavior is like the worst behavior a person could show, and they don't care. It doesn't bother them in the least. They don't so much as blink to it. You are shown that you are wrong, and I'm still going to do what I want to do. And here they are struck blind, and so what happens? They weary themselves. Still, they're undaunted. We'll just say that. They are undaunted. They are not going to stop with what they were doing. They're trying to find the door. This mob has been struck blind. They can't find the door. Then the men said to Lot, "Have you anyone here, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whomever you have in the city? Take them out of this place. Get out, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So this city has just been tested. They failed that test. They showed precisely the type of people they are. This isn't a matter of a lack of hospitality, as some would portray it. If that were the case, then I think that Christ would have rained down fire and brimstone on the Samaritan villages that refused to let them pass through, as James and John suggested be done. Those were truly inhospitable. This is a place of extraordinary, profound wickedness. And there is no reasoning with this people. There's no reasoning that when they are in this mode and they are enraged, they are a mob, even being hit blind, they don't stop. So now we have the message from the men. The men have eaten at Lot's house. They've been protected by Lot. Lot has shown himself to be righteous by doing this. He has shown himself to be righteous. And now they tell him why they're there. They are there because the Lord is going to destroy this city. You need to get out. Verse 14, so Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who had married his daughters, and said, get up, get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But to his sons-in-law, he seemed to be joking. Okay, actually, this is the first time the word joking or joke in any form is found in the biblical text, in case you're wondering about that. And this is when, obviously, having a sense of humor has been around from the beginning, obviously. And here they think he's joking, that they can't be serious about this. He cannot be serious about this. And so they're not going to leave at all. Lot is able to go and travel the city and get to his sons-in-law. And no, they're not going to get out of the city. They're not. Verse 15, when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city. All right, enough's enough. It's time to go. Verse 16, and while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand and his wife's hand in the hands of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. All right, the Lord being merciful to him. The Lord could have said, okay, time's up. Look, my patience is worn thin. Time's up. You have been told. What else do you need? It's over, and you just forfeited your right to live. It's done. All right, but he doesn't. They are taken out forcibly. One of the angels takes Lot by the hand, his wife by the hand, and the other angel takes the 2 daughters by the hands, and they're leaving. They're leaving right then and there, because it is, if they're going to survive, they got to get out in time. And it came to pass, so they're outside, they're set outside the city. So it came to pass, verse 17, so we're in Genesis 19, verse 17. So it came to pass when they had brought them outside that he said, escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. Escape to the mountains. Get out of here. Then Lot said to them, please know, my lords. Indeed, now your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me, and I die. He doesn't want to go into the mountains. They tell him, flee to the mountains. I don't want to go in the mountains. There's dangers in the mountains. Verse 20, see now, this city is near enough to flee, and it is a little one. Please let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said to them, see, I have favored you concerning this thing also, in that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. All right? And that basically means small, okay, or insignificant. It's Zoar is where he escapes to. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. Verse 24. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, and from the Lord out of the heavens. And he overthrew those cities, all the plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. All right, that's as far as we want to go just right now. So, how was Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed? Raining fire and brimstone. Of course, that's coming from the sky. There's no defense against that. Okay, first off, what's brimstone? Brimstone is sulfur. And it is true. If you have sulfur and you put a match to it, it will light. Now, it's not highly combustible like gasoline, but it will light. And once it's lit, it will burn. The whole thing will burn unless it's put out. Okay, it will burn. Now, imagine a storm of burning sulfur coming down upon a city, and there's no defense to that. There is none. It will kill and destroy everything. And you will have a substance that will hit, and it will begin to stick, and it will just continue to burn until it's out. But this is like, instead of hail, this is sulfur or brimstone. Now, I want us to look at the evidence in this, because one would have to think that if this were the case, there should be some evidence for this thing. It's like people who say, well, if there was a worldwide flood, there's got to be evidence for the thing. Well, there is. It's all over the world. All you have to do is just look. That's all you have to do, and recognize, that's evidence that. And I don't have to have an ark in mountains of Ararat to prove there was a flood. There are much bigger things than that prove, that it was a worldwide flood. But one would have to say, all right, if this happened, if rain, or I should say, if sulfur rained from the sky, burning sulfur rained from the sky, there's got to be some evidence for that, right? Right. There's got to be. And there is. And really, there is no explanation for it. Archaeologists have tried, others have tried, and none of it, if you're trying to say the Bible is inaccurate, the Bible's just making this thing up. Why do you have these things? All right, first off, here's a satellite view of the area we're talking about. Of course, there on the left is the Dead Sea, and this is an extremely arid place. This is harsh. This is a very harsh place. And let's just get a little bit closer view. That is looking down at the land. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is a rather rugged area. And how long have people known that this was the site of Sodom and Gomorrah? Okay, the people of that day, they would have known it's Sodom and Gomorrah. And they would have known, wait, where are those cities? What happened here? Because obviously something big happened. And if you were close enough, you would see the glow and the flames and the smoke that would have gone up, very much like Lot's wife did. She's the only one forbidden, by the way. I mean, they were the only ones forbidden from looking at Sodom and Gomorrah as they were being destroyed. Nobody else was. But there were people, this is Josephus. There still remains of that divine fire, and the traces of the free cities are still to be seen. The traces of those cities. He's talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. That's Josephus, historian, Jewish historian, first century, became a helper to the Romans. He was a Jewish general until he decided it'd be best for his survival if he went with the Romans. And he becomes a historian and writes a number of things. Now, let's just look at these verses, and we just looked at them. The sun had risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. All right, it was about dawn when they're taken out of the city. And they're told to flee to the mountains. He doesn't want to flee to the mountains. He wants to go somewhere else. He wants to go to Zoar, though it's not known by that name then. He wants to go there. And so by the time he gets there, the sun's already on the earth. Sun had risen. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. All right, this is an important bit. This is an important bit because if you have something like sulfur raining from the sky, there's got to be something left behind in this. There's got to be something there. He overthrew those cities, all the plains, all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. So this is that whole region. That whole region, not Zoar, but that whole region gets blasted. How so? Well, it says, overthrew the cities, the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. Anything outside the cities. And what was the landscape that we saw? A landscape that we saw was pretty barren. It's rocky. We'll see more. Now, here is an interesting thing. This is a museum, by the way. It's a museum in the area. I know you can't see it from there, but this says sulfur balls loose from Gomorrah. I'm not making this up. Crystalline capsules around the sulfur balls from Gomorrah. Now, how they know which one is which, I don't know, other than things that could be passed down. I have not gotten that information as to how they can know one from the other. But the whole area, in this area, has these chunks of sulfur that have not burned up. All right, so you said once ignited that it would burn up unless it is extinguished, such as if it hits the water of the Dead Sea, it'll be extinguished. If it hits ash, it will extinguish. It'll be suffocated by the ash. It just go into the ash, there's no more oxygen, and you have all these chunks of sulfur that have been, they're still around today. Here's someone who's found one in the area, because they're all over the area. Here's another one that's in ash. It's embedded there. Here's one that it shows that it's encapsulated and that there had to have been a heat with this thing because of where it was encased. Here is looking down at a bed of ash, and there they are. They're all just embedded in there. This looks like the end of, if I were to think of this as rain and the evidence of rain, which it's not, but the evidence of rain, I would say, oh, this would be the last drops of that storm. Then that's what it looks like to me, that these would be hitting ash. This place has already been destroyed, but then the sulfur, the brimstone, well, these would be tapering down, and then it'll be over. And you'll see each one of these. Now, I circled it in red. I hope you can see from where you are that each one of these has its own circle around it that is a darker color because it was hot. It was hot, and so it's discolored the ash that's around it. This next one is showing someone took one of these chunks of sulfur and ignited it. And this is it ignited. And here is it, as it continues on, it just melts, and you'll see that, yep, you've got this discoloration that's going on around it. Now, this next one is the Grand Canyon. And I've got this for a reason. All right. These are layers of sediment, layers of rock in the Grand Canyon. I want you to notice them. Relatively straight lines, the strata that is there. And, all right, so that's typically what you see when you have things going over, typically what you see when things are being laid down, this by water. Things are being laid down, and a different kind of catastrophe for this. But here we see, if this is from the region of Sodom and Gomorrah. If you cannot see this, I've put circles around it, that these layers, they're spiral. These layers, it's like someone took these layers and twisted them. Okay, we have more of that. And I hope that, I doubt you can see these. This is at a greater distance, but it almost looks like, have you ever seen like sand art? You might have gotten one from your aunt or something. It was a craft, and you put down a layer of one colored sand, and you put another layer, and you kind of mound that one up, and you're supposed to make a picture out of it. I don't know how. I mean, it's got to be incredibly hard. Well, it's almost like that. They're not straight layers. It looks like someone took those layers and started twisting them like that. That's a closer up version. That's a closer up photo. And how is that even done? It's done evidently by immense heat is how that's done. But it's, and this, by the way, is ash. It is hard packed ash is what this is. And you may be able to see the how fine those layers are, and they're coming at different directions. And of course, all this has been subjugated. It's been subject to wind and the like through all the years. Here's another one, just showing the way these layers are. This is a closer up, and it doesn't look anything like what you find in the Grand Canyon, of those layers put down by water. These weren't put down by water. This is ash of things burning. And if you have man-made objects that burn, how they fell and how they would have the mounds they would have created of ash would create things like this. I remember my cousin's house burned to the ground, and my uncle got the call that her house was on fire. I was in the car with him. We got there, and by the time we got there, it was to the ground. But you could tell, I mean, for someone who had been in the house, you could tell, oh yeah, I know what that is. That's her butcher block. She had a butcher block. There it is in that pile of ash. And that one, she had this large wooden statue that someone got her from Mexico. It's this large wooden statue. And yeah, I see where that is now. Completely burned, but a big thing of coals. This is what you would get. Now let me show you some things. This is in the area. This is in the sites of these cities, and just a lot of ash in here, a lot of ash and rock. And exactly who made that, I can't tell you. I don't know, but this is just in this area. And you can see that if this were green, and if this had like a city standing there, that this would be a beautiful place. This would be a stunningly beautiful place to be. And obviously, Lot thought it was a place that he should be in this. And now, this is just more of what they refer to as the towers or walls. I can't call them that. You can see them as that. I'm not sure that's what we're looking at. I'm just not. But this is a place that saw some massive destruction. And to say, as some have, that these cities, whatever cities they happen to be, that these cities were attacked by an enemy and the enemy burned them. No enemy in the ancient world could do this. Nobody in the ancient world could destroy like this. This is on par with a nuclear explosion of where everything is gone. Everything's just gone. And we need we'll continue next week in the chapter. And there's a lot of very frightening things that if you understand what you're looking at, frightening things in this area, if you understand what you're looking at, you're seeing the power of God in destroying. And I'm just, in my mind, this is where you need to have your pride parades. You want a pride parade? Do it here. That's a great place for it. And for people with a debased mind, it wouldn't mean a thing. It wouldn't mean a thing. But there's your place for it. And God has a design, and God knows what we need. He knows what righteousness is, and He expects it. And there is judgment. There always has been, and there's going to be final judgment when all this comes to an end. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll continue next week.